Okay, here's something to think about. What if the very words you speak are like subtly chipping away at your inner peace?
Hmm.
That old saying, silence is golden and empty words are chains. Makes you
Right.
wonder, doesn't it? In this world where we're all sharing constantly, broadcasting everything, are we losing something important? Like a sense of real calm?
That's a really powerful way to look at our lives today,
Yeah.
yeah. And this deep dive, it's kind of drawing on that timeless wisdom, some Buddhist-inspired ideas, specifically about what might be better kept, well, quiet,
Inside our own heads.
kept private.
Yeah, kept private to really nurture that inner harmony, that sense of well being, especially with all the noise around us.
Exactly. So we looked into a source that lays out pretty clearly 8 specific things.
Hmm.
Areas where maybe saying less or nothing is actually better for you than speaking up.
Right.
So our goal here in this deep dive is really to unpack those 8 points together for you listening and figure out why they're seen as so important for finding, a more peaceful, maybe more balanced way to live. Sounds good. Where do we start?
Let's jump right in. The first one, regrets.
Okay, regrets. So the first area the source highlights is this idea that constantly um, going over our past mistakes, our regrets,
Yeah.
talking about them again and again, it can actually keep us sort of chained to the past in a really unhealthy way.
Taint. Yeah.
And there's that reminder, the Buddha's words, the past is a shadow, do not hold on to it.
Hmm. It makes me think of that image, carrying a sack of stones.
That's the one the source uses, yeah. It's vivid.
It really is. Like
Yeah.
every time you bring up that old regret, you're just picking up another heavy stone, adding it to the bag, just drags you down.
Keeps you burdened.
But okay, is there a point where looking back is useful? Or is it always just, dead weight?
That's a really important question. The source, he gives this example of someone named Ella, a medium apparently,
Yeah.
who realized, she saw that by constantly talking about her past hurts, she was actually stopping them from healing.
Keeping them fresh.
Exactly. Keeping them raw, present. So the key difference seems to be the intent. Are we just dwelling stuck in that loop, or are we trying to pull out a real lesson?
Okay, that makes sense. It's like reframing it, right? Instead of just, oh, I totally bombed that presentation, it's changing it to, okay, I see what went wrong there. Now I know how to do it better next time.
Precisely. It's about turning those, difficult experiences into actual insights for the future,
Hmm.
not letting them just define who you are now.
Right.
So sharing a regret might be helpful if it genuinely offers a lesson learned. Maybe for you, maybe for someone else who's going through something similar. Otherwise, well, often it's just giving more energy to that negativity.
Okay, got it. So the second point then, it shifts to something really core, protecting our actual inner peace. This one really resonated with me.
Mm. It's fundamental, isn't it? The source uses this lovely analogy. Think of your inner peace like a candle flame.
Okay.
It's beautiful, gives light, but it's also delicate. It can be so easily disturbed, even put out by a sudden draft.
And the draft.
The drafts, in this case, are things like disputes, arguments, other people's opinions, especially the unsolicited ones, harsh criticism, all that external turbulence.
And it brings in another Buddhist idea here, doesn't it? Peace is within, do not seek it outside.
Mhm.
Simple, but wow, so hard sometimes. Especially now with social media and everything demanding external validation. How do we actually do that when we're feeling anxious or upset?
Well, one key insight from the source is that if we voice every single feeling, every anxious thought that pops up, we might actually be handing over control. We give the outside world, other people, power over our internal state.
Handing over power.
Yeah. There's this little story in the source, quite relatable, I think, about a friend who shared their anxieties, hoping for support, right?
Yeah, you do that.
But instead, they got judgment. And that just made them feel worse, amplified the distress.
Oh, that's tough. That's a real risk, isn't it? You open up looking for comfort and bam, you get the opposite.
Yeah.
Makes you more anxious.
It really does. So the advice is about being discerning, treating your inner peace like a sanctuary, something precious you need to protect.
A sanctuary, I like that.
And before speaking, especially about something that could stir things up inside, ask yourself, is sharing this actually going to help preserve my strength, my inner calm? If the answer feels like no, then maybe silence, at least for now or with that particular person, is the wiser, more self-protective path.
That's a really practical filter. Okay, right, let's move to point 3. This one tackles material successes, achievements, feels very relevant today.
It really does. You know that urge we get? to share about the new house, the fancy car, the great vacation.
Sure, it's natural to be excited.
It is. But the Source brings in that caution from Buddhism. Attachment to things is the path to suffering. So what's the connection there with sharing? What do you think?
Well, I guess it's not about not enjoying things you've earned, but maybe about those things becoming your main source of happiness, or needing others to validate them. And broadcasting it just kind of cements that attachment.
I think that's exactly it. The Source suggests that, yeah, sharing wealth can sometimes invite envy from others. Or it leads to comparisons. They compare themselves to you. You compare yourself to others.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Right. And sometimes the praise you get isn't even sincere. Ella, the medium again, she apparently shared excitedly about getting a new studio. And instead of support, she ran into gossip, negativity, not what she expected at all.
Wow. So it really shows how that external validation based on stuff can be so flimsy and, like you said, even backfire. Makes you think true success is maybe more internal.
That's a key point. True success lies within. So the Source encourages a shift. If you feel like sharing, maybe try sharing the joy of the journey.
The journey, not just the destination or the purchase.
Exactly. Less, look at my new car. And more like, wow, I've been working towards this goal and it feels so rewarding to see that effort pay off. Share the process, the dream you were chasing, not just the thing itself.
That definitely feels more genuine, more relatable too.
Yeah.
Okay, point 4. Let's get into negative thoughts. We all have them. But what about voicing them?
It's a big one. It's about the power of our own words, really. How expressing negative thoughts can actually make them stronger, give them more power over us.
Right.
The Source reminds us of that Buddhist teaching. Your mind is your enemy, your friend. It really highlights how much our thoughts shape our reality. So what's the risk in voicing the negative ones?
It's like you're feeding them, right? Giving them more energy. The Source used that analogy of negativity being like a weed.
A weed.
If you keep watering it with words complaining, criticizing, focusing on the bad, it just grows bigger, spreads its roots deeper.
Totally. And it doesn't just affect you. The Source mentions knowing someone who is just perpetually negative, always complaining.
Oh, we all know someone like that.
Right. And that constant negativity, it didn't just drag them down, it drained everyone around them too.
Yeah.
It's almost contagious.
It really makes you think about the, energetic wake your words leave behind. This ties right into that Buddhist idea of right speech, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Right speech, speaking what's true, yes, but also what's beneficial, what's kind.
So how do we apply that when we're feeling grumpy or critical?
The Source offers a really practical step. Just pause. Before you speak, especially when those negative feelings are bubbling up, take a breath and ask, is what I'm about to say going to inspire or destroy, build up or tear down?
Inspire or destroy, that's powerful.
Yeah. If it feels like your words are just going to add more negativity, maybe silence is the better choice, at least until you can reframe it, find a more constructive way.
Okay, that's a great check-in. Well, let's move to point 5 then. Dealing with personal conflicts, arguments, disagreements, these get messy. And the urge to vent to a friend is so strong.
Oh, absolutely. When you're upset with someone, a partner, a friend, family, they're on your side, get validation right.
Totally, get them on your side.
Yeah. But the Source brings in another deep one. Compassion begins with silence. How do you think silence helps with compassion in a fight?
Maybe it stops you from just reacting, gives you space to actually think, maybe even see their side a little. And not dragging others in keeps it from getting, blown out of proportion.
That's a really insightful take. The Source definitely suggests that sharing all the details right away can just add fuel to the fire. It creates more tension, more misunderstandings.
Yeah.
You pull other people in, they might not have the full picture. Maybe their advice isn't actually helpful. Ella's story comes up again here. Apparently, a small argument. She had got much worse after she vented to a friend.
How so?
Well, the friend then gossiped, distorted things, and it just created more drama, more hurt between Ella and her partner.
Ugh. That's a reminder that not all advice is good advice, even if it's well-intentioned. Sometimes too many cooks spoil the broth, you know?
Exactly. So the wisdom here is often the best way to sort things out is directly, privately, with the person involved. Or maybe through your own reflection, meditation even. If you do share, make sure it's with someone you really, truly trust. Someone who's objective and genuinely wants to help find a solution, not just stir the pot.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, point number 6. What about our big plans, our dreams, our goals? We get excited, we want to tell everyone, but should we?
Right. The source uses this lovely image here. Our dreams and goals are like tiny seeds. They need time, quiet, maybe even darkness to germinate properly before they're ready to sprout.
Seeds needing quiet.
And it connects to that idea.
Yeah.
Attachment to the future is suffering.
Yeah.
How might that apply to telling everyone your plans too soon?
Maybe you get too fixated on one specific outcome, or you start needing everyone's approval for the idea before you've even really started. And I suppose people can shoot down your ideas pretty quick, too.
That's exactly the risk. Talking too early can invite doubts, criticism, maybe even fear from others. The source gives an example of someone sharing their business idea.
Yeah.
And they just got hit with a wave of, what ifs? Are you sure? That sounds risky, from friends. Well-meaning, probably, but it can really kill your motivation, plant seeds of doubt.
Oh, yeah, that can definitely happen. So what's the alternative?
We'll look at Ella again. She apparently kept a big new project totally secret, worked on it quietly until it was done, ready to launch.
And then let the results speak for themselves.
Exactly. There's a real quiet power in that, isn't there? Letting the work gestate, grow strong on its own, without all the external noise and opinions.
Yeah, like...
The source kind of encourages that. Work quietly, stay determined, and let the outcome be the announcement. Maybe even a nice surprise.
Let the work be the announcement. Okay, point 7 now. Our vulnerable spots. This feels tricky because we hear so much about vulnerability being a strength.
It does feel tricky, you're right. And there is strength in healthy vulnerability, in seeking support. But the source adds a layer of caution, bringing in the teaching. Be mindful and trust. Why mindfulness, do you think, when sharing deep stuff?
Well, because not everyone deserves that trust, maybe. You're opening yourself up, making yourself vulnerable. You need to be sure the person you're telling won't misuse that, right?
Precisely. Seeking support is natural, healthy even. But just spilling your deepest fears or insecurities to anyone and everyone, that carries risks.
What kind of risks?
Judgment, misunderstanding. Or worse, someone could actually use your vulnerability against you. Ella's story, again, apparently a colleague she confided in, spread her fears around as gossip.
Oh, that's awful. Betrayal of trust.
Exactly. So it really highlights how crucial boundaries are.
Yeah.
And knowing who is actually in your trusted inner circle.
So how do you know?
The advice is, reserve that deep vulnerability for people who've proven they care. People who consistently show empathy, who you know are trustworthy. Before you share something really personal, ask yourself, has this person really earned this level of trust? Are they in my inner circle?
That's a good question to ask.
Yeah. The source says, value your vulnerabilities like pearls. They're precious. Don't just cast them about carelessly.
Like pearls. That's a beautiful image. Protective. Okay, last one. Point 8. Our good deeds. This feels a bit counterintuitive too, doesn't it? Like, shouldn't we share good news, inspire others?
It can feel that way, especially with social media encouraging us to share every act of kindness. But the source goes a bit deeper. It talks about kindness as a pure gift, something intrinsically rewarding. And it references the Buddha. True generosity does not seek praise.
It doesn't seek praise, so it's about the motivation.
I think so, yeah. If the main reason you're doing something good is to get likes or compliments or recognition, does that somehow, I don't know, taint the act itself?
Maybe it shifts the focus from the person you helped or the act itself onto you and how good you look.
That's a really insightful way to put it. The source suggests that boasting about helping, especially publicly, can kind of diminish the purity of it. It contrasts this with Ella's experience of, say, anonymously supporting a cat shelter. Yeah. And the idea is that the deep personal satisfaction she got from that quiet giving, with no expectation of thanks or praise, was actually much more fulfilling and lasting than any temporary validation she might have gotten online.
So it's like doing good quietly, like that flower analogy the source used, blooming without making a noise about it.
Exactly like that. There's a certain integrity, maybe a deeper peace, that comes from just doing good for its own sake.
Wow. Okay. So we've gone through all 8. What's the big picture here? What ties it all together?
Well, the really powerful theme running through all of this is that silence isn't empty. It's not about lacking something. It's actually a form of strength, a conscious choice, a way to actively protect your inner world.
Right. Not empty, but strong. And that other quote comes back. Speak to create or be silent to grow. These 8 secrets, as the source calls them, they feel like a kind of shield almost, protecting your peace in a world that wants you to share everything.
That's a great way to think of it, as shield. So the key takeaway, maybe for everyone listening, is to just try experimenting with pausing. Just for a second before you speak. especially around these 8 areas we talked about.
And ask that question.
Yeah, ask yourself, will sharing this actually strengthen me? Will it add to my peace or take away from it?
It's not about shutting down completely, is it? But being more mindful, intentional
Right.
about what you share and when and who you share it with.
Exactly. The source suggests just starting small.
Yeah.
Pick one area that really hit home for you today and just notice. Observe how making a small shift in your communication starts to feel, how it impacts your sense of calm, maybe even your relationships.
Start small and observe. I like that.
And maybe a final thought to leave with everyone. As you think about these 8 areas, which one feels most relevant for you right now? Where do you sense that choosing silence, even just sometimes, might actually open up space for some unexpected inner growth? Or maybe help you build stronger boundaries?
Something to reflect on.
Yeah. It's a personal journey, isn't it? And often, like we've discussed, it's those quieter paths that lead to the really profound insights.